Hello, everyone. This is Ken from Keystroke, and today I want to welcome everyone as we start the relaunch of Linktivity. So what is this? Linktivity, as you can see, is an entire suite of online products. I just have to remove this here. Entire suite of online products that we have spent the last several months really overhauling, adding features to, improving and modernizing the UI. So we want to just go through them. We've got a 5-part webinar series starting today, and this is going to run from obviously today straight through to the first week of March as we cover the 5 different Linktivity products. So today, as everyone is aware that's in this meeting, we'll be covering Link2calendar. So what is Link2calendar? In short, it's Calendly for ACT users. That's probably the best way to explain it. Link2calendar is an online appointment scheduling service that publishes your calendar online based on the times you have free in your calendar, in your ACT calendar. So you're looking at the Linktivity page here. You can scroll down and read a little bit more about the different products and the different rates and such. And here's the Link2calendar. Okay, we've also got it on our keystroke page if you want to learn more about it as well. Okay. In short, Link2calendar modernizes the way that businesses interact with customers. Too often we're forced to play email ping pong with our customers, going back and forth with different meeting time proposals until one is finally agreed upon. Okay, this often leads to many missed opportunities with a lot of time getting wasted. This problem is so prevalent, it's given rise to services like Calendly, Appointlet, BookMe, Link2calendars, and many others. And the reasons are very simple. Like it saves time, it closes deals faster, and it just creates happier customers. It is for this reason that 3 years ago, and I'm just going to bear with me as I give you a brief rundown on the history of Link2calendar because it was the flagship product under Linktivity. 3 years ago, the CTO of ACT asked us to build an integration to Calendly. Okay, that's why I've been referencing it so much. The problem we saw though is that Calendly costs $9 to $12 per month per user. That's $108 to $144 a year per user, depending on the tier that you got. So we had a little trouble thinking that we can really add to that charge because obviously, we would have to charge for the integration. So we thought the simplest thing to do was to just build our own service from scratch that integrated directly with ACT through the API. And when I say integrated, I mean instantly interact with ACT's calendar. And we're going to show you today how fast that is. Okay, and all of that for half the cost of Calendly itself. Okay, as well as the other services out there. So let's see how that works. So the first thing is, when you get a link, you've got to surface it some way, and you can do that within, signatures, your email signatures, your social media, in any number. I mean, we've got it on our website. So if you go to contact or about us, you can scroll down and you can see right here my profile. You've got right at the bottom, it says book a time with me. Pretty straightforward, and then a number of other people in our organization that got it as well. So when you click on book a time, the calendar pops up. Okay, now when you first load, okay, the calendar, it is doing a number of things. It's actually logging it, it's launching the API and connecting to your database. So this first step, and that's why we've got this little spinny wheel, the first step is what will let me just see here. Okay, what obviously it's towards the end of the day, so there's not much available here, but it's going to log into the database. But even though it's going to take maybe 5-10 seconds, that's the longest delay you're going to experience, because once it's logged in, you're going to see that you can, oh, hold on. Maybe that was a bad example. You should be able to, I think I had that cached from maybe another thing here. Hold on. So I think this might be the first. Okay, so now it's showing you all the different ones. And now this is what I meant to show you, is that you can see that it's very quickly showing you the available on on the availability of whatever day you want here. Okay, so what we've done is we've kind of front loaded the initial delay so that your users, your people that are visiting your site and trying to pick an appointment won't be delayed from day to day depending on what they select. Okay. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice when you log in, okay, is if you present the screen again, I'm just going to log back out here, is, okay, cancel this. And I'm actually going to go in. You're presented with a screen here that is saying, welcome to Linktivity. The current time zone is Eastern Standard Time. That's the time zone that I'm in. And this doesn't perform any kind of functional role other than to tell the people, especially in the global economy, if you are in a different time zone, this is a reminder here to go down and change the time zone to your time zone, that being the person that's visiting you, so that you're not booking a time that that works on your 9 o'clock, but not the users. Okay, so this is the one thing that we prompt people. Now, along here, we've got the mini monthly calendar that allows us to toggle forward, back and forth. Okay, and then you've got the time zone selector. Now, the time slots, I'm going to show you how you can configure this later on in the back-end settings. But the time slots, this is actually a neater thing where it says, like, this is how your day is divided up. Okay, but what you can do is, if you're looking for the next 60-minute availability, okay, well, there is none today. But tomorrow, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and if I go to the next day or the next Thursday or Friday, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I wanted to pick a 90-minute block, like let's say that I had a 90-minute meeting and I needed that person's next availability, then I can break up the day that way. So that's kind of a convenient way, and this is an option that you can either enable or disable for your users to choose from. But if you enable it, they'll be able to pick up to 3 times your preferred time increment. So be careful when, and I'll get into the settings later, but be careful when you're setting your time blocks, because if you then give them the option to multi-select, and you set, say, an hour time block, then you're basically giving them license to book 3 hours of your time. So just be mindful of that. Okay, you're going to notice the personalization at the top. Okay, this is totally customizable, as well as this image. Now, this image may seem a little bit small, but it's actually allows you a 800 by 150 pixel image. So if it's more of a horizontal image that you've got for your corporate logo and that, then that's going to fit in this a little nicer. Because this is a round image, it's going to be limited to the smallest, which is 150 pixels. So whatever image you've got, it's going to be limited to either the maximum width or the maximum height. Okay, so whatever is the smallest. Okay, so just be mindful of that when you pick that. And it doesn't matter if it's a larger image, Linktivity will auto size it down. And I'll show you later where you can overwrite this text with something that's a little bit more personalized as well. Okay, now, let's see, go here after. Okay, you can use this to advance, and then you could see the time zone with selectors. Okay, let's make sure I'm up here. Okay, so now you can see here you've got your toggles where you're advancing from month to month, but by default, when I've got my settings, when you log in, you've got the daily view. Okay, now the daily view I prefer, okay, because most people are going to have that set up where they're not looking across an entire week. But every industry is different. You'll have some service professionals that really need to show the weekly view, and you can do it this way. Now, want to easily demonstrate that whichever you pick, this is mobile responsive. So let me just show you how you can see that. If it's the weekly, it's going to stack like this, okay? But I like the daily in terms of mobile. So you can see how easily that that reformats, okay? Okay, so now we've got that. Let's look at, okay, we've got that, and we've this. I'll show you again how you can change your defaults, but let's actually get into setting an appointment. Okay, so I'm going to set a 30-minute appointment. I only have one slot available today. Okay, so I'm going to click on it because obviously publishing your availability and not allowing people to action on that is kind of pointless. So this will read your act calendar, and I have got my act calendar up, and I'll show you that. You can pivot over here. Okay, and this is reading right off the central database. Okay, so I'm just going to actually go to my daily calendar here. Okay, you can see this appointment for this webinar, and you can see the time slot available here. Okay, so what I've got, let's see here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to fill out Chris Huffman. I'm not going to put in a company name, but the email, name, and phone number and this information and that information are all mandatory fields. Now, we have an update that we're going to publish after the event that will indicate more clearly which are mandatory fields. I wasn't going to publish that just before the webinar because that would make my name Vic and it would tempt fate for everything to blow up. So I'm going to wait until after this webinar and then we'll update and you'll see that feature changes. Okay, so now I'm going to put in my phone number. I'm going to select the type of appointment. I'm going to show you later how you can pick that. So in this case, I have allowed people to choose either a call or a conference call. I'm going to put demo appointment and how to avoid being Vic. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on create and let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the confirmation page, which is great. So you can customize, as I'll show you later, the text that is in here. But most importantly, if you are, if one of your prospects, and you can hear that ding, that's the email confirmation that's coming in. I'll show you that in a second. If one of your prospects has just booked an appointment with you, it would be a bit of a pain to ask them to go to their calendar and book that. So what you can do is you can just click on here, and this, the user, the visitor can then download the ICS file, and that will, hold on, come on. Okay, and it will pop up, and here's all the details. Okay, so you can see the time is 4:30 to 5. The location is the phone. Okay, I'm going to actually reference that particular location because there's a value in the back end that you've got to have because of this. Okay, and same thing with ken@kqc.ca. I'm going to show you why, where in the settings it's important to set that. Okay, but you can see the date. All of this is reflecting it. You can see the details in here, the emails, Linktivity, and the you know, the whole subject line here. So now I'm going to click on accept. And now that, if I'm the person that I'm visiting, that is in my calendar. Okay, I've got the ability, this is my Act for Outlook popping up. Okay, I'm going to click on cancel since I don't need to add that to the calendar. So now let's go over here and let's click on refresh. And now we can instantly see this in our calendar. Okay, I can drill in here and I can see all the details. And if I go into the details, I can see how to avoid being Vic. Okay, so now that I've got that and you can see that it's pretty instant, let's go back to the calendar. I'm going to click on here and go back to the appointment. Now you can see I don't have any availabilities, okay, because I took the last availability. That's how fast it is. Now, you want to see how fast the API works in reverse? Let's go over here. Let's click on this. Oops, go back to calendar. I meant to clear that. Okay, I'm going to click here. And now I'm going to delete this appointment. Okay, so it's gone. Now let's go back to my schedule appointments. And that availability appears back there. Okay, so even if someone books an appointment with you, and you have to cancel it, that's how quickly the availability gets in. That's the power of the API. It works that fast. Okay, where back and forth, whichever action you take, whether on the Linktivity side or on the calendar side, that's how quickly they communicate.
So
Okay,
Ken,
and
there's a question. Does it work on, you were talking about the API, does it work on V24 desktop?
I'm going to get to that in a
Okay.
little bit when we get to the back end. Good question. Just make a note of that. And if you hear questions like that, then definitely jump in, and I'll either answer right away or tell you I'm going to cover that later. Okay. Any other questions? Because this kind of wraps up the front end. I mean, the beauty of this kind of service is it is pretty straightforward. It's going to surface all of the availabilities that you've got. It's obviously not going to show anyone what you're busy with, but it's going to show people your availability, and it's going to allow them to book in at the earliest mutual convenient time. Okay. So Vic, any other questions at this time?
Yes. Yeah, there's, are the prices in Canadian dollars? And I responded, the pricing is in US dollars.
Yeah, we have to
And
do it in USD, unfortunately. But Canadians, but this isn't like a good thing. But if you are Canadian checking out, then you would be subject to whatever provincial sales taxes, from your area, but not
okay,
US.
all right. And the next question is, allow booking 1, 2, or 3 consecutive time blocks. I only want 2 consecutive. Can I choose only 2?
Absolutely. Yep. So I'm going to get into that, and I'll show you how to configure that on the back end. So some of those options we're going to cover, because I want to just kind of show, because this is an equal mix of end users and resellers. I wanted to kind of showcase the end user experience, people that are going to your site, okay, are going to your link to see how easy it is to book a time, and really how fast. Okay. If you try to integrate with other third-party services, like let's say you actually tried to use a service like Calendly or Appointlet, and I don't like advertising other services or BookMe, you would have to then tether them together with a shim service like Zapier, which more often than not is going to have a cost associated with it, just so that you can pay for a higher cost for those other third-party services. This is the only one that integrates directly with ACT instantly, okay? And I'm going to show you how when we get into the back end, what your connectivity choices are.
Okay, a couple more questions, Ken. Can
Yep.
you sync with any other calendar like Google?
No, this is just for ACT. Okay, good question, but quite frankly, we're not going to swing out of our strike zone. We're an ACT provider, so this is strictly ACT integration. If for people that are going into Google Calendar, Outlook, and things like that, let's be honest, they're going to go to the other third parties that have cast a wider net. We are focused as ACT specialists strictly on the ACT integration, so we can provide that value added to our market. We're not looking to compete with every single product in the world.
Okay, and then on the confirmation page, can you show the details of the meeting, date and time?
Well, that's in the ICS. We're not going to put it in the page because it's just more to format on the answer page. But the ICS is there, so you download it. It's there. It's in the calendar. So if there is any mistakes, you're going to notice that on the ICS. So it's really just an extra 2 clicks.
Okay, thank you. And you skipped over priority. Why is priority in the list? Can we not show that?
I skipped over priority, and I'm not sure why I did. Okay, I guess I was kind of flowing along. When you select the priority, I guess it's the visitor's priority. It may not necessarily reflect the person whom you're booking that appointment with priority. But yeah, you may want to stress to someone that if you're booking an appointment that it is of a higher priority, or just leave it as the default as the lower priority if it's just an introductory meeting. I didn't skip that over, other than most ACT users are going to understand what that means.
All right, how can I adapt my availability to whether it's at their place, this is Realtor, or in a video conference?
Okay, well, I'm going to get into that in terms of the activity types that you display, and I'm going to cover that because, quite frankly, you should be very strategic in terms of what kind of activities you surface. Like, for instance, just from recent personal experience trying to book a dog groomer, if I In my business, I would allow people to book a phone call. But if I was someone like a dog groomer, I would allow people to book an in-house appointment. But I wouldn't necessarily, if I was in a different vendor, allow people to book a meeting where I had to go out to their site. Okay, so this is where you would have to choose it based on your industry. If I'm a dog groomer and everyone's got to come to me, okay, then I would say, yeah, I would pick the activity type, and it wouldn't necessarily be calls. It might be a grooming session or shampoo, whichever. That's the beauty of ACT, is that you can create any custom activity type and then select it within Linktivity, okay, and it will be reflected in your calendar.
All right, thank you. Cal Calendly allows for scheduling different types of activities with different time allowed, such a meeting for an hour or a call for half an hour. Does Link2calendar do this?
Yeah, just like this. Okay, you can set 30 minutes, 90 minutes, 30, 60, 90. So that's 1, 2, or 3. Okay, and then you set the increment. If my increment is, or my blocks are 30 minutes, so if you set it an hour, okay, then you might want to be cautious that people, can't book for 3 hours, but that's how they can book that. And then
Okay, so the question though is, for different types, can you do different time? Like for
it can control. Oh, like if you
uh,
select
uh,
the call, can it be 30 minutes? No, there currently is not a bad idea. Okay, but currently the time allotted. So let's say if a person chose a call, they might be limited to 30 minutes, but if they chose a meeting, they would be allowed 60. It currently doesn't have that kind of mapping. Not a bad idea though.
all right. What does the client see when you canceled the appointment?
Well, what you can do is obviously, if it's in their calendar, okay, and it ends up in your calendar, you just have to notify them. They're not going to see anything if you have to notify them that you're rejecting the appointment, okay, and since you don't get the ICS, only they do, it'll be up to them to remove it. But you got to remember the nature of the service. You are publishing your availability. Okay, so there is certain ground rules that the presumption is that you will accept the appointment. If it's with someone that you don't want to have a meeting with, then that's just a human interaction issue that our technology isn't going to help with.
Okay, can you control the calendar duration for when or what month someone can book?
I'm going to get into a
And
little bit of that later
okay,
in terms of how far in advance, but that's more of a settings issue.
okay, can you book a Zoom meeting?
You can, well, I mean, you can't book a Zoom meeting. You can't integrate at this point Zoom into this, okay? And that's, I would pay attention in 2 weeks as we feature Link to Events, which is a bit more about that. This is kind of a one-to-one. You're setting an appointment meeting, whereas Link to Events is a bit more about a multi-person event. Okay, so I would tune in to 2 Thursdays from now as we feature Link to Events on that.
All right, how can you see appointments on your mobile phone? That one's easy, handheld contact.
Yes, handheld contact would certainly reflect whatever is in your calendar.
Okay, can you add to your calendar along with just Outlook? I think the previous question meant that some people use Google Calendar and they would
You're
not
getting an ICS, which
SES.
an ICS file, which actually works in numerous different calendar formats.
And the last question, then you can move on again. How can the client cancel the meeting on Linktivity?
They can't. They can't. Once it's set, it's written to your calendar, and there's no availability reference, just like you saw when I booked this. There isn't a way for them to cancel. They just have to email or call you, just like human beings normally do. Like this is not meant to create like a dynamic link between their calendars and yours. It's just meant to solve that email ping pong problem and allow you to book a time at the earliest possible convenience. But once it's booked, then it's like any other appointment that you've booked with someone. If you need to cancel, call them, email them, and that's how it'll work.
All right, that's it for questions now, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So now we've covered the front end of the Linktivity, Link2calendar. Let's go to the back end, because there's a fair bit on the back end that will answer a few of the questions. So let's go to the Linktivity website, And the way you get to it is just click on my calendar, or my account, I should say. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out some of the changes that that if you haven't visited for a little while, you're going to notice. So the first thing is obviously the website represents a complete design overhaul, but that doesn't relate to anything functional. So you can see on the back end here, okay, we've got a significant upgrade and modernizing look. Okay, and the moment that we log in, it's continuing that same kind of visual look, modern look throughout, and you're going to see that. So the first thing that you're going to see when you log in is your subscription thing. Now, your subscription expiry. Now, for those people like myself that have a lot of subscriptions, this will display the one that is furthest out. Okay, it's going to give you a brief description, but most of the things here in this paragraph are fairly self-evident across the top here. Okay, and we're going to kind of go through each one of them. So we've covered this. Here's all the different products, as I said, reflected up here as well. So let's go into the Act Web API settings. Okay, so here is where you've got your API settings. Now, here is our API. Here is our database name. Okay, here is my Act user login, and here is where you would enter in the password. Obviously, this is not going to be displayed in clear text, but you type it in, and if this is the first time, you're going to click on Save Changes, and then you're going to click on Test Connection. Okay, now, if for any reason you have difficulty with, getting this authenticated, you're getting some kind of error message, what you can do is you can go to the Keystroke webpage, okay, scroll down, and we have here a web API tester, okay? So I've pulled this up here. I'm just going to pull my screen here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my information, okay. Okay, and now I'm going to click on submit. And what this will do is if you're concerned at all that there's an issue with your API, or maybe you're using Act Connect link and it's not working, you're trying to figure out, if it is the Connect link or the service, this is where you can test it, which is totally separate. So this is indicate we've logged into your web API successfully, your credentials are correct. So with this, you should be able to successfully test your connections here. Now, Vic, you asked about Act v24 and Pro. Right now, the Act Web API is an exclusive subscription benefit, okay? However, Keystroke also developed a technology called CAPI, okay, which is short for Keystroke API. And what that is, a add-on API. It doesn't do anything for any of the other Act features like insights or Act marketing automation. This is strictly an add-on API, okay? But if you were able to select this, and then you put in your Keystroke API, and I'm not going to get into the whole setup of the Keystroke API. We can do another session on that. But you can set this up, put in your Keystroke API and all the other information here. This would allow people that are not subscribers to Act, or pro users, people that are either pro users or perpetual premium users, to have access to API add-ons like the Linktivity series. So we developed this, and it kind of widens the net in terms of people that can get access to it. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. If you are a desktop user without API privileges based on it being pro or off-plan premium, then this is an option for you. That's why we say it supports back to pro or premium v19 and forward, okay? Because we did build that CAPI bridge that allows non-subscribers to access, okay? So with that covered, let's go into the general settings. Okay, so those settings the web API settings would then cover every single Linktivity product that you subscribe after that. We're obviously only focusing on Link2calendar for now, but that will cover, those initial settings would apply to all of them, okay? So we go into the general settings, the display name, Ken Quigley, the primary email, ken@kqc.ca in my case. Now, remember I was talking to you about the ICS and why it was important to have this information in here, because whenever you have an ICS, you've got to have obviously a sender ID, and in that case, this is where this would be. This is where you would put in your default logo, okay, that would be there in the absence of you setting any other logo, okay? So I would put this one in, and again, this is going to be limited to 800 by 150, okay? If it's round, then you're going to be limited to 150 by 150, okay? Time zone, fairly self-evident, okay? What are you displaying? What time zone are you displaying your availability in? And then you've got the date format. So the date format is, just because we've got Americans watching this, Canadians watching this, most Commonwealth nations will have day, month, year, big, bigger, biggest, and American common date format is month, day, year. Okay, you can choose that. I actually prefer the American, even though I'm a proud Canadian, I prefer the American format of month, day, year. Okay, now this last one, if I don't explain, is going to be a little hard to understand. So what does it mean by create groups or act group creation? Well, as you will see, I'm going to just bring over a screen here. As you can see here, things like Linktivity events and Linktivity forms, they automatically create groups within ACT. And so let's say you're creating an event or you're creating a form, every single person that signs up will be linked and added to that group. However, if you're like Keystroke and you've got 30 ACT users, everyone's forms will get lumped all together. So what that little checkbox allows you to do is say, for the Linktivity forms, group all of my forms under this email address group. Okay, so this kind of keeps everything nice and orderly. It also eliminates, I think, the fairly common problem of people deleting other people's groups, okay, that contains important data, so that everyone can be kind of subdivided and organized appropriately. The other thing is, a lot of people, when they're first learning it, they'll create a lot of test groups, which really creates a lot of clutter. So that's why we created this little way of organizing all of your groups, by your account, okay? So once you've got
Ken,
this, yep.
Sorry, Ken, quick time zone question, because you were on time zones there. The time zone has to match your time zone?
This is expressing your time zone, yes.
Yes.
So because it's reading you're basically saying, what's the time zone of your ACT calendar, okay? And obviously, just in North America, we've got lots of time zones, and we deal with East Coast, West Coast, Central Time, Mountain Time. So we want them to understand, okay, what our ACT calendar is being expressed in.
Good, thank you.
Clear? Okay,
yep.
Very good. Okay, so when you're filling this in, you would then click on Save. Okay, now I'm going to skip over Link to Cloud, okay, because that is a feature that we haven't fully released yet, okay, but the account information. So here you put in, your standard information. You can change your password here if you like, and this will indicate your reseller, so on and so forth, okay? So all of this is pretty standard. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over managed subscriptions, which we are going to get to, and go straight to the Link2calendar. And I think this is going to answer a lot of the questions. Now, the first thing is, when you create an account, it's going to assign you calendar.linktivity.net / a long, completely complex alphanumeric name, okay? And you would never, ever be able to remember that. So what we did is we created the option for you to have a user-friendly name, okay? So in my case, it's calendar.linktivity.net / Ken Quigley. When you're setting it up, all you've got to do is put in what you want, and it could be your first name, last name, both, and then you just click on validate, okay? And this will indicate whether or not it is available, okay? And then if it is available, you click on save, and then that will appear up here as your unique calendar. And I'll show you how handy that is, because if I don't want to go to a link and I'm just saying, just go to my calendar, I can just tell people to go to, calendar.linktivity.net/Ken Quigley. Okay, and that's what you're seeing here, okay, is the long alphanumeric name. You can clearly see there's no way you would ever be able to remember that. Okay, but that's my calendar, and now I've got the ability to easily remember it. Okay, now, so you've got this here. Now, here is where you set your default calendar display, daily or weekly. As I showed you, it doesn't really make a huge difference on mobile. Both are pretty serviceable. In my opinion, though, daily is a little bit easier to render on mobile, but it's not just about mobile, it's also based on your industry. You may find, especially with bigger time blocks, that you want to surface a weekly calendar first. If it's a 30-minute time block, it might make more sense for daily, okay? Now, if you want to have, here's your custom message. We've actually had people, believe it or not, really react strongly to have any kind of branding in here. So you can actually put in your own branding here. Now, obviously, because this is our product, we're going to put welcome to Link2calendar, part whatever, and that's going to be displayed up here with your logo, okay? But if you wanted something a little bit more, on point, a little bit more pithy, then you can put something like, your time is mine, give it to me now. And let's see how that gets displayed. And that's all, and that will be what you've got right there. Okay, nice and simple. So if you want to have something that's short and pithy, I don't recommend something quite that aggressive, then you can do so. Now, let me just put this back. So I'm playing with live ammo here. I don't want people seeing that. Okay, now, if you want, and I get asked this, so I'm just going to tell people, if you want to have, create some kind of emphasis in here, and you want to put in italics, or you want to put in bold, or let's say you want to put in center, you want to center some text, and you try to use HTML code, you cannot do it in here. So if let's say that you want to put in, let's say, you want to emphasize Linktivity, very small bit of code, boom, it's going to blow up, okay? So can't do that. Let me go back here. Okay, and it's scrubbed it out. Okay, so this next box is the answer page. We saw that with the ICS. If you want to have something that provides a bit more description to that person's point about either displaying the calendar information in there, or what do you want to do with if that person cancels, you can put in some disclaimer text here. And put in, if for any reason this appointment doesn't work for you, please call such and such to cancel, or please email me here to cancel or to reschedule. So this is an area where you can resurface or surface some kind of cancellation information. Okay, so I hope that that is useful. Okay, so we've got this, and then here's another area where we can put in, a specific feature for the a specific image for the calendar. Okay, and if you have another one, you can just select whatever you like here. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Save changes, and you can see that my expiry date is constantly being displayed down here. Okay, now let's go on to calendar. Now, if we go through here, some of this stuff is pretty self-evident. You've got your day pickers. Obviously, we talked about the groomers. Groomers may have weekend hours. This is where you can surface it. If your hours are, other than 9 to 5, this is where you would adjust it. Okay. Now, this next one I get asked about quite a bit. Number of months in the future. Now, this was something that when we first introduced this, and this product has gone through several iterations over the last 3 years, we realized that if we give people access to our calendar too far in the future, we're losing control of being able to book for vacations or things like that. Can you imagine, like at this point, I want to book a week in the summer, and I've got someone that's booked a 30-minute call, and now I've got to cancel it because I want to book something at the end of June. Okay, so that's why we put this kind of control so people can't book too far in the future and possibly muck up something else. Okay, now the other availability options allow meetings to be scheduled for the current date. This is something that we realized was pretty important because someone can really book a meeting with, as you see how fast the API works, someone can book a meeting with you in 15 minutes. Okay, so let's say that, it's right now it's 3:41. My next availability is at 4 o'clock. I can have someone book a meeting with me at 4 o'clock. I may not even notice that. I might not check my email. I might not check my calendar, and I can miss it through no fault of my own. So this is where we've presented the option where you can clear the option to allow people to book in the same day. Okay. Now, the blacklist. Now, I had someone ask me today, what if you have different availabilities each day? So let's say you work on Mondays from let's say noon to 5, and then Tuesdays you've got different hours, a different time block. Maybe you work from 9 to 3 or something like that. We don't have the ability to set different hours per day. But what you can do is basically open it up. So this is the earliest, and this is the latest. And then you can use blacklists to block out the time so people can't book in times where you're not available. Okay, so let's see how that works. I click on add. Now, I've got, let's say I want to book a one-time thing. So this would be my vacation in June. I can put in cottage trip. Okay. I've got the option of recurrences to be either none, if it's a one-off, daily or weekly. Why isn't there monthly? Because we don't have a monthly calendar. Okay, so we've got a daily calendar, a weekly calendar. So this is what determines the recurrence. I'm going to say it's a one-off, and this allows me to set the from date, the to date, the from time, and the to time. Okay, so that's as simple it is. If I select daily, then the dates get erased, and I can set, the different times this way. Okay, and then weekly, this is where I would say I would want different times. So I can say here, Monday would be from this time to that time. And then I would create another one for my Tuesday availability. For Tuesday, I might have earlier hours, whichever. But this is where you can kind of toggle it, okay, and have, because quite frankly, Act is going to display when you're available. You may not have anything assigned when you're not working those hours. So you want to make sure that people can't book times that you don't intend to work. Okay, so this is where you can kind of toggle it from day to day. I thought that was an interesting question I hadn't considered, but blacklists are an effective tool in managing that. Okay, then anytime you make these changes, in every section you've got to click on save for them to apply. So I click on save. Okay, and now I'm going to click on appointments. So this is where you get into some of the real nuts and bolts of what's being displayed on the calendar. So I indicated, actually, you know what? I said something incorrect. I apologize. I said earlier that you can pick 1, 2, or 3. I apologize. You can pick 1 or 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I misspoke earlier, so just make note of that. Okay, so you don't have the option of picking 2. It's either 1, 2, or 3. But actually, that's something that I think we should be able to easily adjust. I'll ask the developer if we can make that a pick list. Okay. Okay, so the meeting blocks, obviously, if it should be 30, 60, 45, something that's easily divisible in the day. This is where you would set your time blocks. Or the meeting durations. This is where you would allow people to multi-select. If you clear this, they will only have the ability to book one meeting at a time, okay, which might be tedious if they have to book for larger time blocks. Now, meeting buffer, what is that? Well, I personally can't stand having meetings booked back to back to back, okay? So this meeting is going to run till 4 o'clock. It would drive me crazy if I had someone book something with me at precisely 4 o'clock, because I may want to have a few minutes to prepare. I may want to have a few minutes to get a drink of water or something like that. So I may want to put in a 15-minute buffer, so that if my day is 30 minutes, okay, it divided into 30 minutes, and my next availability was at 4 o'clock, me putting this in would push my next availability to 4:30. Okay, so this is something that I think gives people a little bit more control of their calendar. It doesn't leave them completely at the mercy of others. It's just to have that little bit of breathing room. Okay. Now, this is exactly what you think it is. When you create an appointment, you are writing to act, and that activity is going to have an alarm, okay, or not an alarm, and will have an advance notice. So if you set this and you set the alarm, this is how much notice you'll get. Okay. Now, I said earlier that you can set the activity types the moment you click on here. Now remember that initial delay. When we logged in, there was like 5-10 seconds delay. That's because the API was logging into your database, and this is where you can see the effect of it. So now you can see all the different custom activities that we have in our database. If we weren't logging in initially, you would immediately see that kind of delay while it logged in again. Okay, so now it's pulling from the database all your custom activities, and you can indicate what kind of activity types you want to make available for people to book. Okay. That's really reasonably straightforward, and that there isn't a right or wrong. That's going to be based on whatever your industry needs are. Okay, now location. Why did I put in a location? I showed you the ICS. ICS has to have some kind of location, so we added that field. So when the activity creates the ICS file, it knows to insert whatever is in here. Okay, there isn't a right answer, there isn't a wrong answer. I typically only allow people to book phone meetings with me, so I put in phone, so it just pre-populates that, so there isn't any error message when the ICS is being generated. Okay, and then the last thing is the required fields. So you can set here what fields people have to populate. I clear company because not everyone, there may be sole proprietors without a company name, so I don't make people just invent something. And then they may want to put in the appointment subject. It's up to them. If they want to put in the appointment details, me making it mandatory typically isn't going to make them fill it in, okay? If they want to enter it in, then they can, okay? So these are my mandatory fields. I click on save and my calendar is ready to display. Okay, now the one really cool thing that we added last year is Teams. So what is Teams about? Well, every single thing we have talked about here is about booking times with a single ACT user. Okay, and so we've surfaced a particular ACT user schedule. Everything is about that ACT user. You're booking the people that are logging into your calendar, even the calendar name, in my case, Ken Quigley, is identifying when Ken Quigley's availability. Okay, however, if someone is calling into my company or wants to book a time with my support team, my sales team, my admin team, they may not care who they're booking a time with. They just want the next available time. Okay, and they don't really care with whom. So they're going to say, I want to talk to someone in sales, and I'm going to go through all the next available times, and I'm going to pick who that is. So let's see what that looks like, because we've actually got this in our website. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to select Contact Us. Okay, and you can see here that we have got 4 teams that are displayed. Okay, and I'm going to imagine that I'm a user here. I'm going to click on the support team. Now it's again logging into the database. This can take a little bit longer because it's obviously retrieving the information of all the users. Okay, and now I can see that I've got 4 remaining available slots, but with whom? Let's click here. I can now see that Dia is available. He provides support in French. I can either call him, email him, or select. Craig provides HHC and ACT support, same thing. So this little bit of bio here allows the people, if they've got multiple choice, to say, okay, this person is the most appropriate based on the earliest possibility. So in this case, I want to book something with Nav. Okay, I can select this and it will go through the exact same features as we saw before in terms of a bookment appointment. You select it and it's going to go through all of that, confirmation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now to set this up, let's go back here. To set this up, I'm going to click on edit here for, let's go to the support team. Okay, so here's all the people on the support team. Now, if you want to add someone, okay, now in this particular case, I can remove Eric and I can remove Billy. Okay, now if I want to add someone, a couple of things have to happen. Firstly, they have to have a Linktivity account. Okay, so they have to have a Link2calendar account. Okay, it can be trial, but before that trial expires, if they want to be part of this team, they'll have to have a paid account. There is no extra cost to enable the team feature. Okay, so what you can do is you can have the you can just email the person here, send the invitation. If they accept it, they will be added here. Okay, one little caveat, and you can see here that we've sent the support manager an invitation, as well as the hosting manager, a couple of laggards if there ever were any,
Well,
invitation.
and the support manager is wondering why his name isn't in the display name.
Well, maybe if he accepted the invitation, but right now he can't judge. Okay, so if you're dealing with managers like I have to deal with, and if you do, accept my condolences. What you can do is you can send the invite again, okay, and then maybe call them or Slack them or induce them with food or something like that, and maybe they'll respond, and then they'll be added to this team. Okay. On a more serious note, if they have a Linktivity account, it has to be the same API connection method as the rest of the team. For example, if you have everyone on the web API, okay, then everyone that's added to this team has to have their account set to use the web API. You cannot have mixed API connection methods. Okay, so that's really the only thing. If you get errors, that's likely what it's caused by. Okay, but that's how easily it works. You set it up and you can display everyone's availability amongst those that actually accepted the invite, and that will allow your customers to more easily pick anyone that's at the earliest possible availability, and that's really going to convey well what you're trying to deliver in a customer experience, because one person may not be available, the other one is. They're not going to care, especially for tech support. Tech support, they really don't care the name, just help me. Okay, and this is something that is really, really going to be welcome. Same thing, and I see this with, again, the groomers. Okay, I can book an appointment next time. I really don't care if it's Sally or Wendy or whomever. Okay, I care about what's the next available time. If I do care, then I can drill down further and filter by the username. But in most cases, just like, when can I get the next appointment? Okay. And that is pretty much it for the appointment booking. The last thing that we're going to cover is the subscriptions, the e-commerce side. Okay. And we've made the most changes here. So let's talk about those kinds of changes, and let's go to manage subscriptions. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice is that the summary is divided into each of the product sections, with the first one lumping them all together. Okay, now obviously add NFR is only going to exist with mine, which is not for resale, so I can assign this to different resellers. But I would say add a subscription, okay? And I'm going to get into that later. But here's where they're all lumped together, okay? Now, if in most cases you're not going to see as many as this, but if I see my link to events one and I want to renew it, okay, all I got to do is click on renew, and I'm going to be presented with this option, and it's automatically going to apply my reseller discount, okay? And then I can just fill this in, okay? And then I click on pay now, and it will add a year to whatever my expiry date is. Okay, so in this case, my expiry date was June 23rd, 2022. If I add a year, it's going to be June 23, 2023. Okay, so that's a pretty standard transaction. Previously, you had to buy a subscription and apply it, and that wiped out or replaced people's existing subscription, which was a problem, okay? Because we didn't want people feeling like they had to, time it so carefully right down to the last day to avoid wasting money, okay? So, and then here allows you to kind of divide it into the different products, okay? And this is really important if you're dealing with people that like administrators or resellers that have a lot of different accounts. Now, managing users, again, really important for administrators and resellers, where you can actually see people that are, the names that things are assigned to. The first section is the unassigned subscriptions, where you have purchased subscriptions that have not been assigned that you can apply. So we've got a couple of people started this week. I can click on assign if I wanted them to have link to forms. Okay, I would put in their email address and click on assign. And as long as they had a trial account, okay, that would then become a fully paid subscription. Okay, now if they had a subscription, okay, like let's say they had 1 month left and I sent them over a full year subscription, what would happen is it would replace it, but then you would see down here where you would have a redundant account. See, Sylvia has 2 linked to forms. So what you can do is revoke it or transfer it to someone else if, let's say, they just wanted a 1 month account. So you're never going to have anything wiped out with this. So we've really done a lot of work to make sure that the e-commerce side is really simple, okay, and allows you maximum flexibility. We had one person leave last week, and we've got another person leaving tomorrow. So what we can do is we can simply revoke their subscription, and that would then go back up to the top amongst the unassigned, okay? But now let me show you something that is one of my favorite parts, okay? And we've only got a couple of minutes left. So you click on purchase. Let's say that you are a reseller or you are an administrator and you want to purchase enough for your entire team, especially Link2calendar, which is a user-based product. So I'm going to click on purchase, and it's very clearly showing me all the different prices for all of this, okay? This is actually $96, okay? That's got to be updated. So we're going to click on purchase. Okay, now we've got, this is the, by default, it's showing the, I'm just gonna purchase something for myself, okay? Now, my account logged in as ken@kqc.ca is a registered reseller account. So I've got my wholesale rates that are automatically applied. So it's indicated that instead of 60, I'm gonna be paying 45 for the 25% reseller discount. However, if I'm buying this for someone else, I'm going to select this, and I'm allowed to buy a whole inventory of them. So what I can do here is I can look over here and say, okay, how many do I have to buy to increase my margin? 6 gets me a 30% margin. Okay, well, I'm going to buy 6 because I know I'm going to inventory them and I'm going to sell them fairly easily, or I'm an administrator and I've got, enough users for 5, but I'm going to buy a 6 just so that I can, get that extra 5% savings. So you can see here my cost is $45. Okay, and the moment that I go to 6, you can see my cost reduced down to 42. This is my subtotal, okay? And now I'm going to fill in my billing information, click on pay now. Now, before you ask, let's cover a couple of things. Obviously, you are not going to be buying inventory with set expiry dates. Those expiry dates, if you've ever purchased on the back end of Handheld Contact, until you apply them, there is no expiry date. So you can keep them on the shelf for as long as you like. Okay, so if you bought 6 subscriptions of Link2calendar and you only had use for 5, you apply those 5 right away. That 6 would sit there on the shelf without an expiry date until you applied it to a new user account. Okay, and the moment you did, then it will start ticking down. Okay, so that's we've done this so that people can save. Okay, save the maximum amount of money, and really, for resellers, they can actually buy an inventory. And we have the same thing with our keystroke site for buying add-ons. If people want to buy 10, they might choose to buy 11, okay, inventory 1, and get an extra 5%. So this is where you can save a little bit of money, or make a little bit more money if you're a reseller. But what we've done is we've gone to a lot of trouble to make the e-commerce side as flexible and as easy as possible. Okay, and that pretty much covers. I'm right on time, so we're going to spill over a few minutes, I'm sure, with a couple of questions. So Vic, what have we got?
Yes. Can you manage multiple calendars in one window only?
Multiple calendars.
Calendars.
Okay, you mean like multiple users within a calendar?
Yes. Yeah, and I
Okay,
think you demoed that.
yeah, no, well, no, you can have teams, but if you want to display it like an act calendar and show all the different users, no, it's meant to display it as either an individual calendar or a team calendar. Those are the only 2 options. But
Okay.
those team calendars, each one of those users can manage their individual calendar separately. Okay, this is just a way of aggregating a bunch of individual accounts.
Okay. And next question, this is relating back to HTML. Are we adding that feature in the future for the HTML?
Not a bad idea. I just have to know why it was programmatically excluded. There might be a very, very good reason. I know that that's not a terribly great explanation, but I just discovered that. Um, I often discover things as I'm preparing for these kinds of webinars because I do a really, really deep dive. And I discovered that when I tried to put in the center HTML codes, that it blew it up. Tested a couple of other ones and realized that that box didn't support it. So I'll ask. It's a good question. It's something I obviously tried to do and failed very quickly at.
All right. And since we can customize introductory text, can we also customize the opening pop-up about time zones so it can promote our brand?
I'll ask. Currently, the answer is no. Okay, and I'll tell you why we wanted to keep that as simple as possible is because the number one user mistake for people using this the calendar feature is that they weren't noticing what the time zone of the people they were booking appointments with was. Okay, so we wanted to kind of really jump off the screen as the first thing. So we weren't thinking of cluttering that up with any additional custom messaging or branding. But I'll ask. I'm not overly enthusiastic about that use case though.
Okay. And then could you change the availability to be 18 hours later or something like that? Otherwise, at night, someone might book me for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I can't react that fast.
It's interesting. I have actually had that asked of me a couple of times about having a mandatory lead time where financial planners might want to have 1 week or 2 weeks. I think at this point I'm going to have to concede that there's probably more of a demand than I initially estimated. So I'm going to look into that and see what's involved because I've been asked it over and over again, so I have to concede that that there's probably a demand for it.
And then the next question kind of fits into that. Can I prevent a booking less than 2 weeks from today? A floating 2-week blacklist.
Same thing, and I already know who that's
Yeah.
from. Hi, James.
Okay. No, that's from somebody else actually. That's from
Wow.
Mark.
Okay.
And can the buffer be either before or after, but not both? Like the buffering that you have, like you have 15 minutes there before.
Oh, good, interesting. The buffer will wrap both. Okay, so it's a general meeting buffer at the beginning and the end. Interesting question. I haven't thought about that. I don't have an answer for that. It's not a bad question.
And I've noticed that system does not always work so fast when people click create appointment at the end. Could you please add a note that says do not click twice or something like that? It says I get a lot of people click
We've
twice.
added, yeah, we've been updating and making sure that all the experiences will have progress meters, whether it's a circle or things like that. You're not the first person to ask that, and sometimes if people are publishing their own API and they're, you know, our API speed is really fast. We're hosted on Azure, so we don't really have any bottlenecks that way. But you know, some people will host it on their personal computer at home through Act Connect link, and yeah, that can create additional bottlenecks. And that's why we've added in those progress meters with swirling circles that will stop people. Well, at least know that something is happening, that there's some progress there.
All right, and the last comment question is, it would be better to only have buffer on one side or give the user a choice to buffer one or the other, like before or after. That's
Not
the
a bad
last.
idea. Let me ask let me look into what's behind that. Okay. The buffering was one of my original ideas. I didn't really have, you know, a pre or post preference, but you know, now that's mentioned, I think there's a use case for it.
Okay, and the last question, I'm a desktop user. This goes to the online database. Can it be set up to go to my desktop?
Well, wherever your API is, it's going to write to that. Okay, so if your API is configured to work with your local desktop, then that's where it's going to be written to. If your API is written to the master database that you sync with, then you would have to sync your desktop database, your RDB, to get the updates that are written to the master.
All right, thank you, Ken. That's the last of the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. As I indicated, this is the first of a 5-part webinar series that will run through the next 5 weeks. Next week is Link to Forms. Link to Forms is a hugely rewritten application that allows people to create forms, surveys, calls to actions. We've created all kinds of different formatting and flexibilities in terms of design. I really think that this is going to be, you know, a powerful tool that people will want to use. And again, like all of our Linktivity products, it will work with API and CAPI. So I think that if you've enjoyed this, definitely sign up for next week. Even if you're not able to make it, please remember that anyone that signs up will be sent a link to the recording afterwards. Okay, so thank you very much for everyone's time. It's 4:07. We've run a little bit over. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.